Hello again, and this particular unit, and by the way, this is another example of where I've sort of mixed up the chapters, the order that the chapters are presented in the book, with the way that we're going to present these units in this class. And this will be Unit 3, and in the book it's actually Chapter 5 of the book. It begins on page 77 in your text. So before you begin this unit, the first thing that would be appropriate is to go through and read Chapter 5. It's one of the shorter chapters of the book. It begins again on page 77, and read through that. And then this particular introduction that I'm going to give you is extremely brief. And then we have a lecture or an interview that I've done with Jennifer Shackles from MEL, which is a wonderful organization. And Jennifer does a good job in the interview. It's about a 35-minute interview, where she goes through and talks about providing education for English language learners. And depending on what school district that you work in, you may have a large population of English language learners. And you know, if you're in Carthage or Monette or McDonald County, even the Willow Springs School District has a large population of Russian students, or McDonald County and the Micronesian students down in that particular area, or no matter what school district you're in. You may have a large number of students that as soon as you arrive there, everybody knows about ELL services. But what may also happen is many of us, when we begin our especially educational administration careers, we many times begin in small school districts, smaller school districts, and many of them that we may not have a personal background with. And you're there, and especially if in many cases the school district may have never had an experience with an English language learner, or if they've had an experience with an English language learner, they've never really known what to do as far as appropriate instruction. So that's the reason I say that people like Jennifer Shackles and the MEL organization is a good example of you need to call that number fast. And Jennifer talks about it in the interview, about how they oftentimes will get a phone call just out of the blue from a school district saying that we've got a family that's ready to enroll a student right now. What do? We don't have anybody here that speaks Hmong or speaks Croatian or speaks Swahili. And so what do we do? And so you need to know that there are definitely resources available for you, and it's not uncommon. We talked about that at the very beginning of the chapter, is that one of the things I think that identifies in the beginning of the book, the beginning of this course, is that one of the things that many times that shows you the best skills of an administrator is the ability to say, we don't know what to do now. We've got to go find people that do and make sure that we utilize them as a resource. That's a master administrator. And so organizations like MEL are a good example of that. And in this particular case, it happens to deal with English language learners, but it can be in all areas that may not be common for you to deal with. So I would encourage you to utilize them, and hopefully I'm going to expose you to some of those resources in this particular course. So when we talk about English language learners, and Jennifer Shackles will do that, and we talk about the MEL organization, MEL is many times funded by grants that come out of title grants that we've talked about previously in the course. But most of them are cited at your regional professional development centers, RPDC. In Southwest Missouri, it just happens to be located here at Missouri State. But that is the good first, no matter where you are in Missouri, the first good step is to contact your regional professional development center and find out if they have a MEL representative. And then if they do not have a MEL representative, then to contact another regional professional development center that does. And typically they're populated based on the number of non-native English speakers in a particular region. So you may have to contact another RPDC for help, but MEL is always a good place to start. On this course, I'll put a link to their website that can give you supplemental information. By the way, this is one of the shortest units. I only expect you'll only spend a couple of hours on this particular unit of the book, and I don't want you to think that that's unimportant. That means it's unimportant, because it is extremely important, but it's something that we need to know about. It's probably something that we're probably not going to know as much about it until we actually become actual practitioners and get out there in the field. I guess I would say, as far as my personal advice, and Jennifer talks about this in the interview, is that when you become a school administrator, to go through and review all their policies anyway, but to look at their what's called a LAU plan, L-A-U plan, and see what the appropriate steps in your school district as far as policies are on working with English language learners. And if your school district is up to speed, it should have all that in place before you get there. And if they don't, then you need to go out and contact organizations like MEL and make sure that you have an LAU plan, allow plan, implemented and approved by your school board, so that when students come in to enroll in your school district, you know exactly what to do as a school administrator. So there's a couple of brief activities, this nice video to watch with Jennifer Shackles that can give you a whole lot more information about ELL services than I ever can. And like I said, it's an important subject, maybe short in this particular course, but it's extremely important. So next thing you need to do, if you haven't read the chapter, read the chapter 5 of the book that begins on page 77, and then watch the interview with Jennifer Shackles, and we'll all learn a lot about English language learners and what services and resources are available to you as a school administrator when those issues arise in your school district.